So I walked in, I was like, give me the sexiest haircut you guys have. So $300 later, I mean,
wow,
this is worth it, huh?
$200 is $200.
You picked the wrong number. I could have seamlessly went into that.
We'll just edit it.
Yeah.
$200 later.
$200 is $200.
Seamless.
This segment of DoD TV is brought to you by Leopold, American to the core.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Drury Outdoors 100% Wild Podcast, episode number 212. Thank you, live studio audience. You're Matt Drury.
You're Tim Chelswick.
And together we make 100%.
Or a horrible duo, one of the two.
Both. Let's go with both.
All right.
So we've got the standard shout outs. We've got question of the day. We got the wildlife word. We should mention that if you want to be on the show, you could leave us a voicemail and we will put you on the show. You could win a DeerCast hat and give us your social security number.
I got some cool DeerCast hats out.
The Bottomland one.
Oh, yeah. I'm working on another cool one right now. Actually,
Offset.
I'm working on several right now.
Offset.
It's that one will be offset, yes. But I got more in the pipeline.
You sound like it was like some kind of a giving up on that. Like,
yeah,
fine.
Well, I like concession, but I got outvoted on the interwebs. Yeah, on the Instagram.
And you always do what the Instagram tells you to do.
Yes.
Anything.
Oh, hit me in my DMs. Matt Drury 81.
Speaking of DMs, our friends hit us up with some feedback.
Yeah, they're called shout outs, Tim.
Sorry. We need to get a sponsor for this part of the show. And we'll just trademark shout outs.
Yeah. All right. So the first one is from Cameron Dowd over on DeerCast. He's talking about the Bobby Cole show, which was the last episode. He says, love the info, guys. Never stop learning. He used 4 exclamation points. I feel like that's a little excessive. I mean, maybe he was yelling at me.
You have to scream it. Never stop learning. Ever.
Food plots really fascinate me. I don't do a lot of acreage, but I have few smaller plots that I really enjoy working. I'm in the same boat that he is. Not many food plots, or not big food plots, but we got some killing food plots.
Not the size that matters, right? Right?
That's what she said.
Good job. Before I go on to our buddy Steve, who left us a comment on YouTube, I should mention to our iOS listeners, so people that are listening on their Apple device, if you notice the show is a little bigger in terms of file size here recently.
We're fancy now.
We are fancy. You can watch us on your Apple media player.
Yeah, I was doing some cardio the other day, and I was on Spotify.
Did you get your hips going side to side? Okay.
I swing them.
Power walking.
Mm-hmm. And so I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast, and
Never heard of him.
He had, there was video on the Spotify version. I was like, hey, we have video. We're a video production company.
You're a brilliant man.
Can we do these things?
Video.
Turns out we screwed up the podcast trying though. Like it did not work at first.
For a couple of weeks. Yeah, it was weird. And I talked to the folks at Spotify and they said,
like the guys,
unless you're whoever
like the CTO.
Probably not that level, Manuel or something at Spotify. He said, unless you're Joe Rogan, you can't have video with your show. So
kind of BS.
We're not, give us a few weeks. We'll get there.
Yeah.
But we can embed video in in the iOS version of the show. So if you're listening on your iPhone or iPad, you can watch the show.
There you have it.
We'd prefer you watching DeerCast.
Yeah, we're
there's
promoting.
All kinds of great. The show is powered by DeerCast.
That's right.
If you're not watching in DeerCast, you're stealing.
Never thought about it that way.
You're all thieves if you're listening on some other platform.
I'm not going to call you thieves because I just want you to listen. And if you'd like to watch, go ahead and do that too.
You're not willing to go as far as to call our entire audience thieves?
No. Not until we get a bigger audience.
Okay, then I'll name call them.
Yeah, that's right.
Steve Porter on YouTube, also talking about the Bobby Cole show, said, could you guys do a show just on smaller kill plots? That's what I think most average hunters are actually doing. Do that in more detail.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I mean, I think, Yeah, I follow this. It's a group in Facebook called, I think it's just called Food Plots or just Food Plots, something like that. And it's pretty.
A lot of women in that.
Yeah,
Facebook.
It's pretty interesting though, just kind of following along with your everyday hunter and what kind of food they're putting in, what part of the country they're in, and what the equipment they're using. There's some real ingenuity out there on planting food plots.
Well, last year when we had that drought in like late, the annual drought that we get every August pretty much.
Right after I planted.
Yeah. And it was right around the same time I planted. I had a big blue 55-gallon drum and I'd been waiting to do something with it. And I figured, well, heck, I'll buy a spigot attachment, put it in cut a hole in the bottom, put it in there, put it in the back of my truck, and go out and emergency water, like
Smart.
Gravity feed my food, the few small food plots that I had. So
Did it work? Did it work?
It was a ton of work, but I learned a few things.
All right. The name of it was Food Plots and Equipment. It's a Facebook group that you can join.
It's descriptive.
Honestly, it's really interesting. I'd highly recommend it. Yeah. So
I tell no lies.
hey, this podcast is supposed to be about helping people. This is helpful.
Crap.
Since you and I can't do
I need
it.
to excuse myself then. I got nothing to offer.
Right. Let's shut her down.
One of our DeerCasters mentioned he saw my video post about the turkey behind us. I did my first Euro skull mount of the gobbler I killed back in turkey season. And he's like, how'd you do that? And I didn't answer him yet.
Well, there's a video for it. You made a video.
Yeah. It's kind of the finished product. I took pictures along the way because I think I would like to write something up about it. It took a long time.
I'm out.
Turkey, a long time. There were small parts involved. There was fire.
Is that the same turkey, the spur on the left and the spur on the right?
Yeah. So when I was...
Looks like you got two different birds, one skull, one fan, two different birds and two beards.
You're asking too many questions.
You didn't kill this, did you?
You found this. You found different birds dead on the side of the road and cobbled them together to make one trophy.
I'm just saying.
When I was shearing off the legs for the spur mounts, the outer sheath kind of twisted and peeled away from the inner layer of skin. And so that's why you got that like nasty looking.
Looks like the one on the left has cancer, maybe.
Maybe that's why he just walked in circles around my decoys. But yeah, so the first part of the process was because it was an archery kill, the skull was intact. So I'm good there. The day I got it, I fleshed out the skull, took the skin off, and then took as much meat off of it as I could. How long did that take? Taking the skin off wasn't a big deal, but actually going through with an X-Acto knife and cutting away as much meat as I could took, I don't know, maybe an hour just for that part. The eyes, I didn't realize how big a turkey's eyes really are.
The socket looks pretty big.
Yeah, and you get a better understanding of just how well they can see when you finally see, because what you see exposed of the eye is maybe half of it. It's like a solid 2 times bigger than what you see. So take the eyes out, take as much of the flesh around the throat and stuff. And then I let it sit out, let the bugs get to it. That made me impatient. And so I figured I would try to put it in borax and maybe get the flesh to the remaining muscle tissue to peel away. That didn't work so good. And it made the meat undigestible for bugs. So they wouldn't touch it. So then I had to Will Rollins taught me this. He runs Skulls Millworks. He did your buck. And so I put it in a little pot on the stove and just didn't boil it, but brought it to like a low simmer. Did that on a night when my wife was gone. Because that took like 8 hours.
Did it smell?
Yes. It smelled mostly like Dawn dish soap because I put some soap in there to kind of degrease the skull.
Yeah.
Because that's what yellow skulls I learned is when you boil them in water that has no soap, it just kind of pushes the fat and the grease back into the skull. So that part of the process. And then once I got it all cleaned up, I hit it with some peroxide and then drilled a hole in the bottom of the skull where the spine meets up with it for a little nail like a finishing nail to go in, and a little super glue, and
voila.
Bada bing, bada boom. There he is.
It looks good. I'm just giving you hell.
Yeah, good enough. Not bad for a first time out.
No.
But
you're a real DIYer, Tim.
That's right.
That's what they call do it yourself.
Thank you for explaining that. And it took way more time than I care to mention. I all that was into it. Like the fan's not a problem. I've done fans before. The beard's not a big deal. It's just some borax and a good trimming job right up front. But the skull was definitely, and then that jawbone comes off, like that detaches. I had to super glue that back in place.
It just seems like a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So next year, I don't know if I'll do it again, but it's kind of a neat.
It looks cool.
A neat thing, something different than what you normally do.
Well, there you have it.
So that's why I only kill one turkey a year.
That and our inability to call,
the inability,
kill, set up, shoot well,
not be good.
Those things all combined.
Yeah.
Make it tough.
But I'm totally in deer mode now. I am so excited about deer season start. And it's so far away.
Man, today. So we've been having trouble. I have a pallet of analogics sitting at the Lease. And
you did.
Yeah. And so we had it in it's palletized and it's bagged in individual bags. And I've not ever had an issue with it before. Well, we had it up in the big barn. Something got into it. I assumed raccoons. So we moved it down to the smaller shed. Something got into it down there. We were thinking maybe mice. I don't know. So then we moved it back up to the big shed. And I got a text this morning from the farmer who got a text from the person that rents the house next to it. There was all kinds of, it sounded like a real party there in the barn. The dogs are barking and the barn cats are going nuts. Well, apparently there were 5 gigantic raccoons who were getting fat on analogics.
There's a reason they're gigantic.
So I got a text from them, from the farmer. Then I got a text from the farmer who leases the barn because it's 2 different farmers.
Sure.
So everybody's
letting you know what's up.
Upset with me. There's apparently a pretty big mess. So yeah, I'm in deer mode too, but I told Scott, I was like, we got to figure out a new way to handle this to keep it wrapped up. Or I told him, I was like, maybe we just put it inside my muddy bowl because that's pretty tight. And I haven't had, knock on wood, any mice issues or anything. And so I'm like, maybe we just set it inside there. It's going to be a real pain in the butt because we have to haul all the bags up the ladder.
Yeah, it's elevated.
Blind and but I'm like, I don't know where else to put it so they don't keep getting into it. We've never had this in years of doing this. We've never had this problem at the Lease. But I've never also kept like, this is the first year we're feeding pretty consistently once the season ended, like through the winter, minus some really tough times when probably should have been out, but we couldn't get there with snow or ice or whatever. Like minus that, we've had it out pretty consistently. So I went through a pallet already in the early, late winter, early spring, and now we're on our second pallet. And that'll get us through the summer if the coons don't eat it all.
If it's still there for you. Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking I'm going to have some pretty record-breaking coons, though.
If anyone wants a good hat or a stole or a coat.
Yeah. Too bad fur prices aren't very good.
Yeah, no kidding.
We'd have us a real record on the farm.
So,
a booner.
Are you going to go up there and manually clean it up?
We have to, yeah.
Yeah. If you give it another couple of days, the raccoons just come through and eat up the rest of it.
I mean, it's too expensive for me to allow that.
You love wildlife, but not that much.
No, I don't. So
dang.
Yeah, so I'm in deer mode too, but we got some work ahead of us on that. And then, it's like food plot, spraying food plots, the clover and all that stuff. And we've been real slow firing because we've had just little issues here and there with our pump, burnt out on the sprayer. And then we got a new pump and then we blew a fuse and
Scott and I were talking about how any kind of work on the farm is like the rodeo or like gambling, like everything is always
waste of money.
It's a waste of money, but you always feel like you're so close. If the fuse hadn't blown, I would have been able to spray, get it all done and knocked out and would have been ahead of schedule. There's always something that goes wrong.
Yeah, there is. So, and Mark and Terry have told me that forever. Like every day on the farm, something's breaking, something's busting, something. And I'm sure, real farmers that do it for a living can give you a whole book on what can go wrong in a day and how their job never ends, basically from sun up to sundown and past. So
I got into those Gold Rush shows probably 4 or 5 years ago and very quickly learned the formula for the show was they have this goal, but
Everything breaks.
Daily, there's something breaking, and
At the end, they make it.
Yeah, and it's always a celebration, but everything breaks.
Yeah.
So I've got some stand locations to figure out for this, like for the year. I'm the one kind of large chunk of land that I had that I killed $2 off of this past year, killed that turkey at. I essentially have half of that to hunt now because the other half was sold off, which is kind of interesting because it forces me to hunt places that I just kind of overlooked. I think there's some real good possibilities. I think the saddle is going to be a key to scouting back in there and getting into some of those, like the thick cedars and stuff. So I just need to get the helium, the 4-pack of helium sticks, so I can kind of have my complete saddle mobile kit ready to go, and I can go do some prospecting with that.
Sweet dog.
Thanks, homie. Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I'm sure Mark and Terry are looking forward to seeing more saddle hunts.
I'm sure.
Also,
hey, it adds an extra element to Drury Outdoors that none of the rest of us are doing because we all got camera guys with us. So, hey, I'm all for it.
Yep. Doing my own stunts.
So today we don't have a guest.
No, nor do we have an agenda.
No, but we needed to do a podcast. So here we are.
It's good to check in. Like I legit miss, like we haven't missed a week in over a year. I mean,
at least.
Yeah. So it's kind of just a pace that we fall into, and it's fun. Like I really enjoy doing these. So yes, we need to get content out, and it's kind of cathartic to be able to visit with the audience.
Yeah. I like to go back to the previous podcasts. Every couple months I'll go back and read the comments, see what people are saying about it. Not just, what you pick for the shout outs, but in general, if there's anything they want to hear or guests they want to have on, or what feedback of the shows were. And that feedback from the Dale Beatty podcast, the one where it said something about, does race matter in hunting? ? And boy, I was surprised how pissy people got in the comment section. I don't think they listened to the podcast because we basically said it doesn't matter. Dale said it doesn't matter. He's had great experiences and no closed doors, and you know what I mean? And we were talking about how we need more hunters, like him, women, children, all ethnicities. And it was a pretty positive podcast in general, but boy, did we hear it in the comments section.
Yeah. And it's so unfortunate because there are so many people that want to simply identify people by their demographics. Like they want us divided by our demographics.
Well, I think the issue is that people are just hit over the head with it in media in the last,
by
couple
the
years.
People who want to divide us by our demographics.
So I think they saw the catchy title and they're like, God dang it.
Here we go with more
hunting.
Yeah. Here we go with more social justice warrioring.
So I just want to point out that Tim picked the title.
I'll just sit the next show out.
That's fine.
Or I could sit here quietly.
That's fine too. I could just stare at you awkwardly and talk to you.
Make fart noises and stare.
Yeah. If you were going to do that, I'd rather you just sit behind me and breathing down my neck.
Okay.
That I'm
just
accustomed to.
Just when you were editing,
Yeah.
Terry was watching over you, making sure you weren't screwing up.
That's right. At least that I can relate to. Have private
guy PTSD.
Previous experience.
Yeah.
I saw the old man today.
How is Terry doing?
Getting grayer.
Is it possible?
Yeah, he's still got a little pepper in there. He's trying to get rid of.
He's got the hair that I think most guys that are aging would like to have.
It's thick.
I mean, you still got it for one, so that's a bonus, but it's pretty uniform also.
Oh yeah, he's got the look. Hadn't changed much really. I mean, if you go back to the early videos, it looks basically like that. Maybe a little wetter looking now. Definitely grayer.
Going with the wet look.
He used to have a feathered look. I think he had flow before flow was cool. That's the thing now with all these kids. They got flow. Terry had flow. I
just went and got my haircut fixed. So I got a little cocky. I've been cutting my own hair for months now and doing it again a few nights ago. And the guard fell off on my trimmer as I was going to do the backside of my head. And I just heard, and I felt it on my scalp. So I put a divot in. So I went in.
Got it fixed. Beth couldn't fix that?
Yeah. She probably could, but there were some other structural issues that have been ongoing.
Mostly
for a
your
while.
head.
They couldn't do anything for me for that. So I walked in. I was like, give me the sexiest haircut you guys have. So $300 later. I mean,
wow.
This is worth it, huh?
$200 is $200.
You picked the wrong number. I could have seamlessly went into that.
We'll just edit it.
Yeah.
$200 later.
$200 is $200.
Seamless. But the lady was like, I can't tell you how many haircuts I've fixed for people over the past year. Yeah.
All the tight asses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm saving $20 a month here.
Yeah.
It's like, is it really worth it?
No.
Not so much. I need to stimulate the economy.
Unless you're shaving your head like with a 1 all the way around or a 2.
You ever thought about doing that?
I did when I was a kid, Jared and Justin. So the Lurk boys, we're all cousins. We all lived by each other. And those kids, they shaved each other's heads every, couple weeks. They were giving each other haircuts.
How old were they?
We were, I bet they were doing it since they were in 2nd, 3rd grade.
Holy cow.
I mean, look,
free range kids.
It's easy when you're just using one guard and going all the way around.
Follow the contour.
Yeah, you just keep going. Well, they convinced me one summer to shave. They were going to shave my head, and I've never looked stupider in my life. Felt even more stupid
because your scalp is.
Yeah, I got a huge head.
Okay, you got a 5 head,
gigantic forehead, so it's very receding. I don't have a receding hairline; it just starts that way. It always has.
Okay,
been. It's got a big, giant
5 head
noggin, and so it just looked even dumber when you shave it.
It's
I wore at that time. I was wearing an Oakland Athletics hat. Because the Bash brothers, man, Canseco and McGuire, that would have been the time frame, right in the 80s there. And that was the hat I wore all summer. Never took it off.
This is covering up your secret shame.
Yes. So to answer your question, no, I would not shave my head again.
I don't think I would either. I've had friends that have done it as adults and it didn't come back at the same kind of fullness as it did when it was growing.
See, I pride myself in flow as well, Tim. Can't do that.
Yeah, you don't want to tempt fate.
No.
Plus, you could end up with a lumpy scalp and you don't know it until you shave it. This has been Hair Care Talk.
Yeah, I'm sure people are thrilled. The views on this one's gonna really be low.
I don't know. New haircut. So
what I really wanted to talk about are some of the interesting articles that I'm seeing in DeerCast lately. So we started moving towards some news articles, right? Like, hey, what's very topical? What's something that people really could dive
on
into?
The street, I think is the lingo.
Sure. So you've done some DNA, test tube cloning ones.
Whitetail cloning. Had you known that was? Because I
actually have. I did know. I read about that a long time ago. I kind of forgot about it until you brought it back up. And it's interesting. The guy in the article, he's been cloning for 12 years or something.
It's you find out Jed's been cloning in his garage and he's got 13 of the same buck. And well, it sounds like the first successful cloned buck happened back in 2003 down in Texas.
Yeah.
And they kind of use that as the archetype and it's typically deer breeders who are doing this. They find a good buck and those genes are worth a lot of money for people who are doing high fence hunts. And
this is like $50,000 a deer, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. And so there's a lot of money behind it. When there's money behind something, you can pour on the research and development and
$1.6 billion industry, the breeding industry,
billions and billions,
right?
And billions.
I think I was right.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much money there and you can get into the whole ethics of that in and of itself.
Yeah.
But it just, brings up a lot of ethical questions. Like, do we want that? Because captive deer get loose. Then what happens? Then you've got kind of cloned deer out there in the wild,
just walking in circles, eyes glowing at night,
looking at you, telepathically talking to you.
It is creepy. I mean, it's a creepy thing to think about. Like I think I read something not long ago about people doing it for their dogs and pets. Like, it's like, hey, this is
Snowball 1, Snowball 2.
Exactly. And it's like, man, that's a really weird precedent to set. I don't know. I would not want that. And I certainly wouldn't want to, I'd be worried that something's genetically wrong with the meat, or, you know what I mean? Like what diseases come out of it in the long run.
Someone said in the comments, have we learned nothing from Jurassic Park?
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something.
Well, even in the article, they talked about the guys wanting to do a woolly mammoth, which I've read about that before, how they, they got, whatever the DNA, and they want to go back and try to clone from the DNA. Well, it seems a little nuts to me.
The really crazy thing about like woolly mammoths is that for a long time, and I don't know what the most recent case is, but like natives that live up in the Arctic Circle and the tundra and stuff, it was part of their tradition when they found a carcass to sometimes eat it, because the meat was deep frozen for years.
Like and they were talking like tens of thousands of years,
however long it was from us to woolly mammoths.
Like we're not talking about 10 or 5.
No, it wasn't like last decade. It was thousands of years, but it was deep frozen, and it was just no big deal for them to eat it. It would be like someone kind of finding a T-Rex and being like, it's still preserved enough, but it's crazy that they were still consuming woolly mammoth.
Like how long ago did this happen? Like when's the last time someone ate a woolly mammoth?
That I don't know, but like
I demand answers.
In modern history, like in modern times, like I would say within the past 50 to 100 years.
Alan, can you fact check this? Hey, can you fact check this? I need to know when's the last time. What was it? Native Americans found a woolly mammoth.
Probably Inuit people.
Inuit. And ate it.
Eating woolly mammoth meat. I would Google search that and then clear your search history.
This seems weird. Mm-hmm. All right, moving on. Tell Alan, shouts out the answer.
Our boys from over at Blood Origins have been posting a little bit in DeerCast.
I saw that. Yeah.
And Robbie had a post here recently about New York and Connecticut banning the import of, they labeled it iconic African species.
Kind of on that topic, I should say, I just saw where, I forget which country, if it was Japan or Taiwan or which country in Asia, but one of them, they're going to start flooding the market with 3D, like 3D printers, replicas of tusks and horns, and they're going to flood the market.
The price for it.
Huh. Yeah. I just read that today.
I mean, it's still not authentic, so I don't know that.
But if you can't tell,
if they're good enough,
the ones they showed look pretty good.
It's like, what'd you get, Miranda? Cubic zirconia? Mm-hmm. She still doesn't know. No. So it works. Case in point.
I wish I could come up with a way we're redoing our kitchen. I wish I could come up with a 3D printed version of that damn kitchen. Because let me tell you,
there's a little boy in our neighborhood that has a 3D printer, and he has a crush on my daughter. And he has been 3D printing toys for her nonstop.
Tell him to stay the hell away.
This is bizarre. We don't need any more trinkets at the house.
Yeah, I get this. My daughter, she's 4, she's in preschool, and I keep these boys. One brought her home a necklace from his vacation in Florida last week.
Shove him.
Somebody else brought home flowers, and this one kid's always eyeing me up when I drop her off. I got to give him the
stink eye.
I know what you're doing. Circle of trust. But the problem is this kid, he's doing it back to me.
Oh, geez. No, you don't want that.
Yeah.
That's a dominant kid.
Yeah, he's... Dang. Living rent free in my head.
So get a 3D printer.
Yeah, I'd work on the countertops because those are expensive and they're going to be a while.
Dang. But Robbie's whole thing is like, we're importing our own ethics onto these people that live in Africa that depend on the tourism dollars that come from people that go over and they hunt maybe an aging male lion that doesn't fit the social structure, or a problem elephant or whatever. And so, instead of letting the African people that are in these countries decide how this happens, they're just going to tell the way it works. It's an end run. Like, it's not a direct attack, but if you live in New York or Connecticut, they're saying, well, if you live here, you can't bring something like that back.
Yeah. What's next? You can't hunt grizzly. You can't hunt elk. You can't hunt mule deer and say Canada. You know what I mean? Can't import that in. Can't bring that over the border. Like, that's the type of thing that's ultimately happens.
And people will say, well, now you're getting a slippery slope territory. But just because something is a slippery slope argument doesn't mean that it's false.
Well, seemingly more and more it's reality.
Mhm.
I mean, like they need a little inch and then they'll take a mile.
Yep. 100%. So we're excited about having Robbie and crew in DeerCast. So you get to see more of the Blood Origins content in there.
Yeah. Those guys are pretty fascinating, as we heard on the podcast a few weeks ago.
They're almost as fascinating as this show. Sorry,
One other
Robbie.
article, you just launched it in DeerCast.
We've had a few. So in Minnesota, there's a case of a deer farmer who has dumped a CWD positive. In fact, it's been discovered that he's been dumping deer outside of his deer farm property onto like a county park or state forest ground. And one of those deer was CWD positive. So now the DNR up there is trying to figure out, well, how many other deer were CWD positive? There's been over 100 cases in Minnesota of CWD positive deer. Do we have to worry about other deer in the area on these public lands? Because it's also like American Indian reservation ground up there. It's just this patchwork of different governing agencies that oversee these properties.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a mess. And again, points to like, you got to be responsible. If you're gonna raise captive deer, you have to be responsible, and you can't put wild native deer at risk because of your sloppy management practices. So that's going on in Minnesota.
What's the one that just went?
Test tube trophies.
Yeah, no, the one that went today.
Our animals, people too.
Yeah, that's the one. Like, I read about that a couple weeks ago. It's this thing going around in Europe, right? Sentinel beings? Sentient.
Yep. Yeah, meaning thinking, self-aware beings.
I mean, they are thinking. I don't know that they're self-aware. I guess they're aware of their surroundings.
Ultimately, it's an end run by activists to put animals on the same standing as humans so that they can outlaw hunting. And you know, while it's happening in the UK, it's just a forerunner. I mean, these animal rights extremist groups are all connected. They all talk. If it works in the UK, they're going to try to export that here to the US. So it's just, again, a matter of time before we see that tactic played out here in our country. I thought it was important to publish it because it's like, we need to be aware of this stuff. Like, we can't just say, that's England. They're going to do weird stuff anyways. They're going to boil every meal they eat, but they're going to export that tactic over here.
They're pretty extreme. I mean, there's like little to no hunting in Europe, right?
They don't have a context for it. Yeah.
Unless you're super wealthy or So I think they're out of touch to begin with. Let's see. Alan's got some info. What is it?
They said in 1951 some scientists ate some mammoth meat, but it turned out it was sea turtle. And they died out 7,500 years ago. So they said even if you found any, it'd be inedible.
Fake news.
So Tim, recap what Alan just told us for the audience here.
Why do I have to do it?
You're the one that's wrong.
So Alan's saying that they died out 7,500 years ago, and
the woolly mammoth.
And it's unlikely that anyone has eaten any of the meat.
But
in modern times,
in 1951,
the scientists ate some mistakenly thinking it was woolly mammoth meat, but it was really sea turtle.
Yeah, they charged people $450 at the time.
They charged people $450 a plate for it.
Wonder if it tastes like chicken.
For $450, it ought to taste like lobster. Jeez. Well, people aren't going to come here for their woolly mammoth news.
Debunked that one,
Man,
Tim.
Maybe. I'll do some more digging. Okay. I'll spend the entire day tomorrow on this.
How about today and tomorrow? Just waste your day.
Do it. That's how committed I am to the truth.
Yeah.
So go read that article. It's important that we understand the tactics. Like,
who wrote that one? Aaron?
Aaron Merrill. Yeah. Yep. And we had an article go up about checking your deep freeze. How many of us have heard horror stories of guys that have smelled something in their garage or basement or wherever their deep freeze is, only to find that it ain't been running for 3 days.
Yeah.
And all their venison has gone bad.
This like haunts me because so in my garage, like and then my house is probably, I think it was built in 05, and we bought it used in 2012.
Dude.
One of the things that I noticed right away is like there was one plug-in in the garage for the whole garage, and it's in a real stupid spot. So I got a lot of stuff plugged into this thing. I got a refrigerator,
Like the dad on the Christmas story,
deep freezer, and if I'm, any power tools need charging, if I need to do anything, if I'm charging this new tracker off road, like all this stuff. So as part of this kitchen remodel, I'm like, I got electricians here, like, hey, run, some new circuits and let's make sure I got enough. So I got 2 circuits just for the fridge and the deep freezer because I'm scared to death that this is ultimately going to trip something, and then I'm out of basically a season's worth of deer meat. Overly dog, basically.
Well, the cool thing is I didn't realize that they make deep freeze sensors that you can buy that will alert you when your deep freeze kicks the bucket.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So when the temperature starts dropping or you lose voltage to the unit, it'll tell you and you can take action. Instead of finding out after you've got a pool of spoiled blood rolling down the floor.
Sounds like a good book title.
Yeah. Bobby Cole, get on it.
There you go. A pool of spoiled blood.
We have an article about Brood X, the cicada boom that's coming.
Yeah.
And what that's going to do for turkeys. Biologists are thinking that it's such an influx of easily obtained protein that it's going to be great for really poults, hens, and
but when is it coming? Like June, July?
I think it's starting now.
Yeah.
But it's on like this brood. So Brood X is only hitting in like Pennsylvania and parts of Indiana. There's a distribution map in the article in DeerCast.
So it doesn't really help most states.
It does. No. I mean, annually there's the annual cicadas. There's like a 13, a 17 year, a 21 year. But this is going to be a massive explosion in these areas. I think Missouri.
That's what she said.
Missouri is due for their big boom in 2024.
I see.
So we got a few years.
So looking forward to that 25.
Dude, the last time it happened here in Missouri, it was so loud.
Yeah.
Like it didn't matter if they were outside. It just sounded like they were coming through the walls. It was so crazy.
I remember the year that we had the solar eclipse. So what, maybe 3-4 years ago? Maybe longer.
17, I think.
And when the eclipse actually happened, it was such a weird, eerie feeling because all the bugs and the things that you would hear at night started.
Yeah.
Tree frogs and I swear it was like cicadas or whatever, like you would hear them all. It's like, this is really creepy, man.
I took video of it and just let the camera run while it was happening. And you could tell the shift in just ambient nature sounds.
Yeah. Crazy.
It was a creepy moment.
We're really off topic.
We've talked about haircuts.
This off topic episode.
Solar eclipses.
Let's get to this question of the day.
Let's do it.
All right. The question of the day is proudly brought to you by Cold Steel Hunting Blades. By your side while you provide.
Hi, my name is Cameron. I live in Rock Island County, Illinois, and I was wondering if I could get some information on establishing new food plots. I have several good spots, just don't have much food after the crops are out. I started this year with some food plots, and I was wondering what you guys did in establishing a new plot. I know clover is good to go to. You can't really fail there, but I was just wondering what you guys did on starting out new food plots and how you planted them. If you started in this early in the spring to get them established and then planted something in the fall, let me know. I would appreciate any advice. Thank you very much and enjoy the show.
We're working on a new piece that we've talked about a little bit that Aaron Bennett and I picked up. We're working on some new food plots, and basically what we're doing is going in and killing the weeds, with chemical, spraying them,
Gly,
and and then look, I'm not the chemical guy. All right,
I don't know. They're spraying something on there.
Way to call me out, Tim.
I don't know.
Maybe they're peeing all over the food plot. I have no idea. So I know we're spraying it first. We're mowing it, brush hogging it, and keeping up with that through the summer. And then the plan is, because we're planting some fall plots, is to then go in and we'll make sure it's all burned off right before we disc everything up and plant it then. So, I mean, that's, the other thing, the farmer there that leases the property, he was planting beans. And so our theory was that he was kind of prepping because of, with whatever he put on for weeds and stuff like that before he planted his beans. Mm-hmm. So he kind of helped us. And then plus the fertilizer and all the stuff that he put on. So we feel like as long as we keep up with the weeds throughout the summer, brush hog it every couple, weeks or so, keep it down, that it won't be so hard on us come August. But we've done it before at the other lease that, man, where we had not kept, I just don't have any equipment. I don't have this equipment. So we're always renting somebody's time or renting the equipment or whatever. And we've done it before where just in the week or 2 weeks leading into us planting, we were trying to do all this stuff, and that's a nightmare. So we're finally getting ahead of it a little bit earlier, but you can do it that way. It's just that what we've noticed is you got a lot of grasses and it takes a lot of like disking that up and continuing to turn it over. But I would suggest trying to kill the weeds, the grass throughout, and make it a little easier on you.
Yeah. And I mean, I have very little experience with this. Last year was the first year I put in real big boy food plots, and they weren't really big, but I had my buddy Tony come out and he had a sprayer and we brush hogged everything and turned it all over and then planted. And so, I mean, that's kind of the typical process. This year, I don't think I'm going to have access to that type of ground to put in a food plot like. So that's why we were talking with Bobby Cole last week about putting in a hidey hole spot where I could just go in the woods. And the trick is having the conversation with the landowner, because her whole thing with having me hunt out there was she wants the deer gone,
not provide a healthy dinner for them.
Right. Yeah. So I'm thinking if I commit to taking a good number of does off that also, that she might be okay with having a little food plot out there. It's just so weird. It's part of the weirdness of hunting suburbia. The goals, like people have different objectives.
Yeah, they're trying to grow a healthy herd. They want you to kill them because they're eating their flower garden.
Well, you have that, and then next door you have the animal lover who hates the fact that you're out there bow hunting.
Yeah, they love watching them. They're feeding them.
Yeah, it's such a weird dynamic. So it's just there's some nuance there.
Yep.
Speaking of nuance, how about the wildlife word?
Let's do it.
It's brought to you by the American Hunting Lease Association. Ooh-wee. Your hunting access resource. It's kind of a cool organization. I don't think we've talked much about these guys and what they do yet.
No, what the plan is to have the guy I've been working with to come in and give us kind of the lowdown, but they provide, not only do they have hunting lease, that they provide, but that's not like their most important part of their business. The way I understand it, they also have like an insurance side, and they can provide like the landowners insurance. So it kind of protect you in case maybe you don't lease it now, but you never know. Maybe the week of the season, somebody comes to you, knocks on your door and say, hey, can I lease this property for the next week? And you don't have insurance and you're a little worried. Well, this gives you the protection basically all year to just have that in place and ready in case somebody comes and decides to hunt on the property.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice to be prepared.
I hope I explained that properly. I think I did, but that's part of why we want them to come on and share their story with us.
Yeah. So I think Sean will have him on at some point later on.
Yeah. I felt like that was maybe July or August, if I remember right.
Yeah.
So
stay tuned.
Yep.
Okay. The Wildlife Word is brought to you by the American Hunting Lease Association, your hunting access resource. At what age can a fawn survive exclusively on vegetation without its mother's milk? Is it A, 1 year, B, 1 week, C, 1 day, or D, 2 months?
At what age can a fawn survive exclusively on vegetation and without its mother's milk?
So like pretty much weaned.
Oh, man. I'm going to go with D, 2 months. I have no idea.
You're right.
Ding, ding,
Man.
son of a gun.
That's, you always hear that deer seasons start at a time where a fawn will survive if you happen to shoot a doe early season. I know people
frown upon it.
Yeah, they feel bad about that, but biologically speaking, the deer can survive. They're not reliant on the mother's milk.
You talk about Old Man Winter, like he's looking for that doe that has those fawns.
Yeah.
I have something to do with dispersal rate. Like the male, say that I'm going to screw this up, I'm sure, but there's twins, one of them's male. If the mother is around, she's going to kick the male out of her like home range.
Okay.
So if you want him to stick around, grow up, become a big buck on your property, you shoot
Take the mama.
I'm pretty sure I got that right. So dad's
plausible.
Dad's a baby killer, baby mama killer.
He's a monster.
That was in the article, actually, wasn't it? About Bambi. That was in that.
Yep.
See, I read.
Hey, see, I can read. All right. Well, thanks, Cameron. Cameron actually made 2 appearances on the show, once in the shout outs and one in the question of the day. So thanks for doing that, Cameron. I think that's about it. I think we've covered everything we need to cover.
Lots of topics, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of actually enjoy going through just like, like, hey, here's a bunch of stuff. Let's throw it at the wall. Let's talk a little bit about each topic and go from there.
I hate it. I'm over here dying.
Well,
no, I'm just kidding.
Let's leave then.
Let's stop doing it. Yeah. So really, if people have feedback for us, you're Matt Drury 81 on Instagram.
That's right.
I'm The Thinking Woodsman on Instagram. If you guys have ideas for topics and guests or whatever, feel free to
Let's hear 'em.
Shoot us a message.
And that's actually my handle on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, but I'm definitely the most active on Instagram.
Sure.
So don't at me on Twitter coming at me with some complaints because I probably won't see it.
My Twitter's been inactive for like 2 years now.
Mine's active, but it's sad.
Yeah.
It's a sad state of affair over there.
Okay. Well, we appreciate everyone that watches and listens. Tell your friends.
Tell your mom.
I don't know what you'll tell her, but do tell her.
Tell your dad. What
Okay.
the hell?
All right.
Actually, scratch all that. Just tell people who also listen to podcasts.
Yeah, do that. And next week, we promise it'll be episode number 213.
Maybe, if we're here. All right. Till next time.
See ya.
Peace out.
DeerCast is giving you the chance to hunt with Mark and Terry Drury. Head over to DeerCast.com to enter.
We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV was brought to you by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's.